Today I will show you a Korean crime, horror, mystery film from 2020, titled The Call. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. 𝐦𝐨𝐈 arrives at the village where she used to live as a little girl and Sung-ho picks her up to take her to her house. Her mom is very sick, so on the way there, he asks the young woman if she went to see her at the hospital. She doesn't answer because she realized that she had lost her phone at the station and she's worried about that. As soon as she gets inside the house, she finds a cordless phone and plugs it in. A bit later, the phone rings and 𝐦𝐈 picks up and hears a woman's voice, misplacing her for someone else, saying her mom is crazy. When she realizes she has the wrong number, the woman hangs up. Later that day, 𝐦𝐈 visits her mother's doctor, who tells her she has a tumor in her brain that is operable, but that the procedure is very difficult and she needs to be taken to a specialist. She sits with her mom in her hospital room for a bit and the woman tells 𝐦𝐈 that she needs to begin with the arrangements for her burial. 𝐦𝐈 gets very upset when her mom tells her to ask if she can be buried with or next to her father, so she storms out of the room. She visits his dad's grave next, where it states that he died in 1999. When 𝐦𝐈 comes back home, the mysterious phone call returns as well. She realizes that the woman calling her is saying that she's calling from her own address. That night 𝐦𝐈 is woken up by a loud clatter in the house, goes to investigate it, and sees that it was only a photo that has fallen from its post. She tries hanging it up again but discovers that the wall it was hanging from is fake, covering up the existence of an entirely different room. After she breaks down the wall, she goes into the room with a flashlight and finds a box filled with different things, including a girl's journal. As she flips through it, a photo of the girl drops from it. Next, 𝐦𝐈 shows the photo to Sung-ho and he says that it's young Suk. The house used to belong to her stepmom, who was something like a shaman. After telling her the bare minimum, he pretends that he can't remember anything else from that time. 𝐦𝐈 realizes the photo is dated to 1999. On her way home, she sees a store that has the name of the woman, Sun-hee, her mysterious caller has been asking for. That night she gets another call with the woman on the other side frantically screaming until she gets dragged away from the phone by her stepmom. The mom tries to burn her, but they struggle and light fire to the room that 𝐦𝐈 discovered previously. 𝐦𝐈 goes over to the opening she made in the wall and can see smoke and fire crackling on the stairs. Sometime later, the phone rings again and 𝐦𝐈 tells the woman that she knows she's young Suk and that she's found her photo from November 26, 1999. Young Suk says that it's only the 18th, so 𝐦𝐈 reads a passage from her journal of the previous day. She checks what she wrote and when she confirms it's the same, young Suk gets scared. 𝐦𝐈, aware that it might sound unbelievable, tells her that her theory for what's happening is that they're both living in the same house but at a different time. To confirm her idea further, she finds a newspaper article for November 18th and tells young Suk to watch the news that night for a report on a plane crash. Young Suk has dinner with her mom that night and the woman threatens her that if she doesn't eat she'll take her back to the institution, so she begins stuffing her face. After getting her mom upset, she sees the report on the plane crash and calls 𝐦𝐈 again. The two women connect as 𝐦𝐈 tells young Suk about the future, like her favorite musician returning to the music scene as well as new technology that still sounds bonkers in 1999. When young Suk tells her that her biological mom has died and the woman torturing her is her stepmom, 𝐦𝐈 tells her how her father died. There was a fire in their house when she was young because her mom forgot to turn off the gas and her dad died in the fire. On November 21, 1999, 𝐦𝐈 and her family arrive at young Suk's house to take a look at it, thinking of buying it. At this point in time, her father is still alive. Young 𝐦𝐈 runs upstairs and they find young Suk's room, asking her stepmom to open the door. When young Suk appears at the door and realizes who the people are, she calls older 𝐦𝐈 again and lets her listen to her father talking. It's a very moving moment for 𝐦𝐈 who hasn't heard his voice in 20 years. Young Suk comes up with the idea to save her father from the fire herself. On November 27th, when 𝐦𝐈's father was supposed to die, young Suk manages to escape the house without her stepmom knowing and travels to the house where 𝐦𝐈 lived before they moved. Younger 𝐦𝐈 is watching TV and her mom is painting her nails, while there's lunch cooking on the stove. Later, the mom leaves the house and young Suk steals the key while 𝐦𝐈 plays with her dad. Young Suk enters the house as the fire is starting. Back in the present, 𝐦𝐈's cell phone is back in her possession and the burn scar on her leg disappears. Suddenly, her entire house begins to change as well as herself in her room. 𝐦𝐈 walks downstairs, then out of the house when she sees a beautiful glasshouse garden. As she enters it, first she sees her mom, and then her dad shows up. 𝐦𝐈 begins to cry when she sees him in front of her, then hugs him, confusing both of her parents. Later, she calls young Suk to thank her. 𝐦𝐈 spends time with both of her parents, then shares new music with young Suk over the phone. The two of them keep communicating over time and keep getting closer. Until one day when 𝐦𝐈 can't talk on the phone because she's spending time with her parents. Young-suk keeps calling her and gets mad when she doesn't call her back. When they finally speak again, it starts becoming apparent that Young-suk isn't well. Seo-yeon hears screams over the phone and then Young-suk's stepmom's voice, telling her to stay away from her or she'll get hurt. In the past, Young-suk's stepmom is performing an exorcism on her, convinced that she can help her like that, as the young woman keeps begging her to stop. The stepmom flogs her and then speaks chants over her crying face, as Young-suk apologizes, hoping that will make her stop. After that, Young-suk's stepmom goes to Soon-hee's store and notices that Young-suk has been there too. She sees the wound that the woman has on her leg. In the present, Seo-yeon can't help herself from searching for Young-suk online. When she can't find her on any social media, she searches for her address and reads a news report about Young-suk's untimely death during an exorcism that her stepmother had performed on her. Young-suk calls her and Seo-yeon tells her that she thinks that she will die that night. Her stepmom gets a knife from the aquarium and goes up to her room. She winces as she flings up the knife and begins stabbing the bed, where she thinks Young-suk is sleeping. The woman, however, isn't in the bed as the stepmom discovers in horror. Young-suk laughs at her, then gets the fire extinguisher to incapacitate her. She finds the knife in the hazy room and confronts her stepmom, then kills her, getting a taste for blood. After that, she calls Seo-yeon, who waits worried by the phone and relaxes when Young-suk tells her that she's fine. Furthermore, she says she feels reborn. Young-suk can be seen in the next shot, finally outside of the house, happy that she's been freed. First, she treats herself to a meal she actually likes, then buys herself new clothes. In the present, Seo-yeon welcomes Sung-ho into the family home, as he comes in to deliver their strawberries. Everyone is excited about the fruit and thanking Sung-ho for bringing it to the house. He makes a different delivery to the house in the past, but this time Young-suk opens the door. She's happy about her new clothes and shows them off to Sung-ho, then invites him in. Sung-ho asks about her mom, but she just wants to know which of her new things he likes better and leaves him alone in the den, as she runs off to find other pieces she's bought. Meanwhile, Sung-ho goes to the kitchen to take care of the strawberries when he finds a bunch of foul-smelling black plastic bags in the fridge. As he moves one to make room for the fruit, he drops it on the floor and when he picks the bag up, he realizes that it's filled with body parts. Sung-ho freaks out just as Young-suk finds him in the basement, wearing the other outfit she wanted to show him. She's angry that he opened the bag and disappears into another room to grab the fire extinguisher, as the man stupidly sits in the kitchen. Meanwhile, back in the present, Seo-yeon's family is having some tea with him and his little dog, having a nice conversation, and eating some of the strawberries. The phone rings and Seo-yeon picks it up from her room. She hears Sung-ho sobs from the past over the phone and Young-suk cursing that she's ruined her new clothes. The phone call drops suddenly. Seo-yeon has a bad feeling about the conversation she just had and when she comes back downstairs, she sees that Sung-ho isn't there anymore. In fact, he was never even there and her parents have never even heard of him. Just in case, she checks the refrigerator, then walks over to his strawberry farm, only to find it desolate. Seo-yeon goes to the police station in the village and asks the police officers if they know him. While the younger police officer has never heard of him or his strawberry farm before, the older one does. He asks Seo-yeon why she would be asking for someone that has been dead for 20 years and shocks her with the question. The officer takes her in the back and shows her his notes on the crime, where it's stated that he was murdered by Young-suk at her home. The police visit Young-suk in the past as well, making inquiries about Sung-ho, before they knew she was the one that murdered him. She tries to lie to them that she doesn't know him, but one of the cops, which is the older one that Seo-yeon talked to in the future, notices the discrepancies in her replies. Young-suk says that she doesn't know him and that her mom isn't there to tell them if she's seen him, but the officer notices the strawberry delivery in the house. She lies to cover her tracks again, but the cop can tell she isn't being truthful and takes down a few notes, making her nervous. Young-suk blabs something about a murder in the village, but the police officer, even though suspicious, still leaves her house. Older Seo-yeon finally goes to talk to Soon-hee, the shop owner, to ask her about what actually happened to Young-suk and her stepmom. Soon-hee tells her that she thought Young-suk was a well-behaved girl, who would listen to her talk about her husband for hours. Sometimes, she would sneak snacks into her room, until one day she hurt her really bad. If it wasn't for Young-suk's stepmom, Soon-hee would have been dead. Later, Young-suk calls Seo-yeon as she thaws out the body part from her fridge. Seo-yeon picks up and immediately asks her if she killed Sung-ho. Young-suk lies to her, so Seo-yeon reads her a newspaper heading about the day she was arrested by the police as a serial killer and sentenced to life in prison. A life sentence doesn't sound too grand to Young-suk, so she drops the act, making it apparent to Seo-yeon that she really killed the strawberry farmer. Young-suk then begins questioning Seo-yeon how the police found out that she committed the crime and tells her that she will need her to find out how that happened so she can prevent her own capture. She won't let Seo-yeon forget what she did for her and gets really angry when Seo-yeon keeps hanging up on her. Both women react very differently to the whole situation, One is terrified and crying, unable to do anything from her end, while the other is angry and vengeful, dialing 𝐫𝐞𝐜𝐚𝐩𝐬's number over and over. The cop keeps investigating 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 in 1999, seeing that she has some mental health issues. As 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 keeps trying to reach 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 in the future, she hears a knock on the door, and when she opens it, she sees her younger self there, together with her father. He tells 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 that they are looking for her stepmom, who was supposed to meet them at the realtor's office some time ago. 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 says that she must have fallen asleep and invites them to wait for her inside. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 is with her father in the future as well. He notices that she's worried and asks her about it, but she says that she's fine. Her dad stops the car and makes her drive so that he can cheer her up. He tells her that she needs to be more gentle with the pedals so that when she stops the car she won't spill the coffee. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 successfully does that by his instruction. Back in the past, 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 is getting ready to hurt him, as he waits with 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 in the den. The little girl is eating one of the strawberries as she sees 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 approaching and spraying her dad with the fire extinguisher. In the present, 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 drives into a tunnel when she sees her dad vanishing slowly right in front of her eyes, and that version of the future crumbles away with the broken glass of the car. Cut to a terrified 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 who backs away from her father's blood and the image of 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 killing him. The older version of her wakes up in the tunnel, without her dad. 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 approaches the littler version of 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 and tells her that her dad's death is her fault for not picking up the phone. Present-day 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 runs back to the house, finding it in an awful state and seeing the words 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚, answer the phone written in blood on the floor. Sure enough, the phone rings and she has no hesitation whether she should pick it up. 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 toys with her about the way she killed her dad, making 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 angry as heck, threatening to kill her. There's one problem though, while 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 can't get to 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚, she has the younger version of her strapped to a chair, making her the one with the upper hand in the situation. 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 tells her that she has 1 hour to find out how the police will arrest her or she'll hurt her mother too. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 has an idea how to get herself out of the situation and take down 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 for good. Her plan is to send 𝐦𝐸-𝐸𝐚 to a place where she has researched that an accident will happen and retroactively kill her that way. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 sends her to a location where a gas explosion should happen, telling 𝐦𝐸-𝐚 that there she will find the man who discovers the knife with her bloody fingerprints. She waits to see it happen on her phone, but 𝐸𝐸-𝐚 manages to save her hide again because she leaves the building before it explodes. Needless to say, she's very angry with 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 when she calls her back after. 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 shows her just how upset she is with her, by leaving her on the phone as she burns her younger self with scorching water and scars appear on the older 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚's body as well. To make it even worse, she plays 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 a voice message her mom left her dad, saying that she's coming after them. And 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 doesn't stop there either but keeps turning the figurative knife further, by telling her that she was the one responsible for her father's death in the first place. It seems that her mom turned off the gas before she left the house that day and that it was 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 who turned it back on, mistakenly thinking she's doing the opposite. In the present, 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 sees no other way but to actually find the information she wants, so she breaks into the police station to get her file. She opens the police officer's notebook and learns how they finally caught her, sending 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 in the right place this time. 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 finds the man when he discovers the knife with her prints that she thought she had disposed of and kills him with it too. The information vanishes from the notebook, but new information appears on her mom searching for 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 at the local police station. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 sees a play-by-play of what is happening in the past inside the officer's notebook, who decides to help her mom when he learns the address where her husband and daughter were supposed to go to. Suddenly, all the information about 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 disappears from it and the house begins to change again. 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 runs away from the house but keeps on reading that her mom and the cop went to pay 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 a visit searching for her and her dad. 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 lies that they left the house earlier, but 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚's mom finds her hair bow. She and the officer ask to search the second floor of the house but find nothing there. Meanwhile, when 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 comes back inside the house in the future, she discovers that 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 has had a particularly prolific career as a serial killer. She comes down into the room she found at the beginning of the movie and finds the phone down there. In the past, 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚's mom has the idea to call her husband's phone to make sure if he's there or not. The mom uses 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚's phone to make the call and instead of her husband, calls her daughter in the future, screaming at her to get out of the house. Simultaneously, 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 hits 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 over the head and the line is broken. In the past, 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 kills the officer in front of her mom's eyes and asks for the phone. The older 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 taunts 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚, as her younger self calls her on the phone. The women struggle for the phone until 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 knocks 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 out and grabs the phone. A simultaneous chase happens in both the past and the present, with 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 chasing after 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 and her mom in both timelines. They both hide in the same room as the homicidal maniac slams at the door. Suddenly, the phone rings and it's 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚's mom calling the police, but 𝐫𝐸𝐸𝐚 from the future tells her to calm down and find a weapon. The woman finds a fire extinguisher, removes the safety pin, and waits until 𝐸𝐸-𝐸𝐚 opens the door. Unfortunately, The young Suk from the past has the devious idea to get the mom out of the room by placing her kid in front of it, calling for her. Young Suk attacks her with a knife, as her older self gets closer to getting inside the room with 𝐫𝐸. Before young Suk can stab her mom in the past, she grabs onto the knife and struggles with her for it. 𝐫𝐸 from the future sees the blood from the struggle on the walls, as young Suk comes into the room at last. However, 𝐫𝐸's mom tackles young Suk in the past before she can strike the child, and they both fall over the railing. The older version of young Suk vanishes from the future, and 𝐫𝐸 finds herself in the desolate house alone. Later, 𝐫𝐸 from the future runs to the graveyard, thinking that her mom is dead too. The woman, however, shows up there as well, smiling and asking her why she's crying. 𝐫𝐸 is happy to have her mom alive still and realizes that she's actually kinda great. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.